New Thought Media Network proudly presents the Global Heart of Peace's Peace Party. Celebrate the many paths to peace. Explore an exciting life of peace. Embody joyous peace. Come to our weekly Peace Party, Mondays at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. Only on New Thought Media Network. www.ntmedia.org.
Hello and welcome to Peace Party. Welcome. Peace Party is brought to you by the Global Heart of Peace Initiative, and where we explore different ideas and practices to learn, understand, and experience how wonderful a life of peace and joy can be. And we understand and practice and recognize that we're all in this together. And so as we practice and nurture and practice peace and grow in peace, it ripples out into the world. And we are growing peace together. I am Rev Christy Semple, and I am a minister in the New Thought teaching of the science of mind. I'm a member of the Centers for Spiritual Living Global Heart of Peace Initiative, and a staff minister with the New Thought Media Network. I'm so glad that you're joining us here with Peace Party. And today, I'm going to explore an aspect of peace, an idea about peace, a recognition that all around us is this opportunity for growing peace. It's something all around us all day, every day. And with new awareness and new inspiration and ideas, we can work with that to grow peace within and without. And so I was inspired by this. For this, what I'm talking about today, I was inspired by a recent peace party done in November by Reverend Sherry Ganand, and November 10th, I think it was 2025, and it was Peace is the Bread We Break. And she talked about this similarity with baking bread, making bread, and sharing bread in relation to peace, to growing peace, and the different ingredients. And we put that all together in the different kinds of bread, just like there are different ways of experiencing peace. So here's something in our everyday life that can remind us about peace. And so, inspired by that, I am talking about peace is the garden we grow. Peace is the garden we grow. And you might think, well, I don't really, I'm not a gardener. Perhaps you feel that you're not very good at gardening, or you don't have the time for gardening, or you're not, it's not something you feel talented about. But we're going to talk about gardening in relation to it being all around us every day. Peace is the garden we grow. And I'm inspired by this also because before becoming a minister earlier in my professional days, I practiced horticulture. And, ever since I was a child, I was drawn to gardening. I was drawn to gardening, the planting of seeds and the amazement of the seeds sprouting and growing. Loved doing activities with my grandmother and my grandfather, planting the seeds. I just felt there was something really beautiful going on, even as a child. And then growing up, I worked on a farm, and there was just that growing and that harvesting and the earth, and I could just tell and feel and sense the beauty of what was happening there. Then I studied horticulture in college. I got a bachelor's and master's degree in horticulture and practiced that for a number of years. And then when I came to this teaching, the science of mind, and I learned about the idea of the creative mind that is all around. It's like a garden. We plant the seeds. We speak the word of our intention and plant the seed of that into the creative mind. Just like sowing seeds in the soil, and then it responds. The infinite intelligence responds just as it responds to the seeds in the soil. It responds to the ideas that are planted in it in our mind. And so there, that beautiful idea. We hear, as you sow, so shall you reap. Certainly something that Ernest Holmes, in writing the book, The Science of Mind, spoke many times about seeds and gardening and this beautiful and powerful metaphor. It is happening all the time. As you sow, so shall you reap. And other teachings, other philosophies recognize this and teach this as well, and the power of that. So really, every moment of every day, we are gardening. We're the gardeners of our mind. So going back to when I first talked about peace is the garden we grow, and you think, oh no, I'm not into gardening, or I don't have a skill for that or time for that. But yet in our mind, we do. We are gardening all the time with our thoughts. And in our mind, we can grow the garden of peace. Each and every day as we grow and plant seeds, the ideas of love, respect, understanding, planting those ideas in our thoughts throughout the day, and the affirmations that we do in our spiritual practices. Continue to grow and to nurture that. Peace is the garden. It is the garden we grow in our mind. Each and every day, again, sowing that love, sowing the compassion, understanding, listening, respect, patience. We can start to realize I am growing the garden of peace. I am a gardener. I'm a gardener of my mind, sowing the seeds of that into the creative mind that is all around, the infinite intelligence, always responding. So when we're mindful of that, just like a garden out here, and we'll talk about that now, the garden that is all around, and that we may grow a garden, and we could start just with a little garden, sowing some flower seeds, sowing some tomato seeds. We can do that, and in the patience, it reminds us of the patience, which is a beautiful aspect of peace. And that connection with the land, and the awareness, the trust, the faith, the infinite intelligence responding what we plant. Infinite intelligence responds, and it grows and flourishes what we plant. So there are many ways that we can work with this. I am growing the garden of peace. And we can do that as we are walking around and recognizing and looking at gardens all around, even if we don't have one, and recognizing with a new and greater awareness the garden of peace. And as we recognize that, that's part of peace, is that recognition of the infinite intelligence that is always there, always responding, and the power of that. Do you know, also gardening, there are aspects of gardening. Now, you may hear about community gardens, or people grow food and donate that. What a beautiful idea for growing the garden of peace. Or you can join and be part of a community garden to grow some food for yourselves or for those who are in need of food. That's a way of growing the garden of peace in our physical experience. You know, speaking of gardening and the amazement of gardening, the garden of life. So when you walk into a grocery store, go into the produce department, and think about this for a moment. All of the products that are there, in the floral department as well, but in the produce department, think of all the seeds that have been sown, all of the seeds of people all around the world. It reminds us of our connection. And you know, I brought something to share. Like, why does she have that? Look at this little tomatoes. You can see we've already used them. They're some of our favorites, little cherubs. But the reason I have this is I love to get these because when you open the top of this, and you look on the inside, there's a person who works there. There is their name, and there is the department that they work in at that company. And it reminds us of that connection to someone, a wonderful, wonderful human being doing wonderful work. That is part of peace, that recognition. So we can have a new awareness of that, a new awareness of connection and planting seeds. It reminds us to be more aware of it all around us and aware of that in our mind. I am growing the garden of peace. So you can think about that in a new way at home, a new way in your yard or on your windowsill, or when you walk around, or maybe help in a community garden or help a friend and think about perhaps donating some of what is grown. That garden of peace. So many ways we can know it and be part of it. And I'm going to finish with a story, a Buddhist story. It's called The Whisper of Bamboo in the Wind. And it talks about a wise man, Hiroshi, who was known all around, and how he understood nature and could listen to nature and felt it and understood it. And a young man came to him, Hiroshi, or Kenji came to Hiroshi and said, I would like to learn. I want to learn how to communicate with nature. And so Hiroshi said, well, sit down and listen. Sit down and listen. And so Kenji sat down and listened. But, well, all I hear is the wind, he tells Hiroshi. All I hear is the wind. And Hiroshi says, listen more carefully. Listen more carefully. And so Kenji listens with ears to hear. He begins to hear a gentle symphony. The wind, as it rustled through leaves and moved, the sound of the breeze, and realizing there were so many different, there's a melody of different sounds. It was the wind, listening to the wind, the language of nature. You see that we can relate that to the Garden of Peace, because that reminds us, as we listen for out in the garden or any garden, listening, whether it's leaves, whether it's birds, reminds us of the multitude of life, and reminds us to listen to ourselves and listen to others. See, I am growing the garden of peace. I'm growing the garden of peace in my mind. I'm growing the garden of peace in my actions, in listening, in giving, in be service. I am growing the garden of peace. I am. Each day, I can be doing that. And so I'm going to close with an affirmative prayer to affirm that and know that I am growing the garden of peace. So right here and right now, I recognize the infinite all that is always and everywhere present through each of us. The infinite all that is, that I call God, always and everywhere. And the beautiful, the creative mind that is always and ever present, always receiving our word, that which is spoken unto it. And with a new awareness, a new appreciation and mindfulness, I speak ideas, affirmations of peace, of love, of kindness, of listening, of compassion, of awareness. I plant the seeds. I grow the garden of peace. I grow the garden of peace in new ways as I go out into the world, as I listen, as I give. And I am so appreciative of the feeling of the fulfillment, of the upliftment of knowing that I grow the garden of peace. And knowing that all are one and connected with all as I plant the seeds in my mind and express activities that nurture peace. I know that in that connection that it moves out into the world, uplifting, the consciousness, the feeling, the vibration of peace. And so I release this into the creative mind, knowing that it is acted upon. I am growing the garden of peace. And knowing this is so, with a heart full of thanks, I affirm, and so it is, and so it is. And so thank you for joining me here for the Peace Party. And I invite you to join us next week, where a new Peace Party will be broadcast at 5 p.m. Mountain Time, and that will be on Monday, December 29th, or you can always go into on New Thought Media Network, their YouTube page, and see archives of all of these. But Reverend Lauren Martin will be giving a beautiful message that will be posted next week. And so until next time, may you dance in the joy of a peace-filled life.